tell you an inside story. One time I was going to test actually the rig for immersion, where we put the video camera up behind the truck and drove it around. I bought, we had that rig like custom welded, and I wanted to test it, but I didn't have a small enough camera to balance up there. We only had the Red and then like a little camera I just had that didn't fit the tripod. So I went over to the Ramseys to borrow their camcorder, and I walked in, and Jeff goes, "Oh, yeah, here, hold on, let me get it for you." And Griffin goes, "Hey, Bernie, what's up?" And I said, "Nothing, I'm just here to borrow the camcorder." And she goes, "Oh." And she had this weird look on her face, and then Jeff hands me the camcorder, and I go outside with it. And she follows me outside, and I'm like, hooking out of the back of the camera, and she's sitting there like this, like looking like this. And I said, "Griffin, do you want to check the camcorder to make sure there's nothing out?" She goes, "Yeah, thanks." And she I can definitely read between the lines there. I never find out if there's anything on there, though, or not. Yeah?
Why did you start doing things like making animated? Why did you just make this?
That's a good question. Because there's something that we wanted to do, and we took a big break after Halo 2, and then we went to Halo 3. And then Halo 3 opened up a bunch more things for us. And when we took the time to really work with the engine and figure out what we could do, what story we could tell, we made Reconstruction after that. And Reconstruction is my personal favorite of anything we've ever made. And then after Reconstruction, then we took a look at it and said, okay, now what else can we do being limited by the engine? And we felt like we had played through a lot of it, and then we made Recreation, and we were just looking for more ways to do things. I think it's just a general evolution. Like when we first started in Season 1, we did absolutely nothing with the engine at all. Then we started doing in the PSAs like little inserts, and then in Season 2 we put the graves for Texan Church in there, and it just kind of just naturally evolved from that, like doing a little bit more here and there. And then we did some stuff, like you did some custom stuff in Reconstruction with like guys waving and stuff.
Right, that, and then Nathan made that really cool holographic display thing that Meta had.
Yeah.
Some
Yeah.
stuff.
I always said I always wanted to have one of the characters just be able to point at something. That's it. Just point. And that would be, I'd be able to like not say, hey, look, because everything's dialogue. If you look at a script for Red vs. Blue, a 90-minute movie for Red vs. Blue has a 180-page script. Because there's nothing that you can solve with action at all. Like you can't, like you watch a Hollywood movie, like someone will look at something and be like, and it says they're confused. Where's Red vs. Blue? They go, I'm confused by that. You know what I mean? You have to say everything. You can't say it. It can't be done.
Especially Caboose.
Especially.
Number 21.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. We got time for like one or two more questions, I think. And then we gotta wrap it up. Oh, whoever's been up longer. So. Go ahead.
You want me to keep meeting you?
Well, we are fan fiction. We're all in favor of it. Was that enough of that?
Is there a certain fan fiction in particular? I read something that was it involved Griffin Simmons.
The author.
I kind of stopped after that.
You ever gonna touch on the graves?
Are we ever going to touch on the graves?
Yeah.
What do you mean?
Later on, you gonna explain it, or because I know if it's a closely guarded secret, the graves.
It's not really that closely guarded the secret. You mean the Jewish versus the Christian one?
Are you ever gonna reveal?
If we ever say somebody's name, I mean, you'd be able to figure it out. And, you know, Leonard Church isn't exactly a very Jewish name.
No.
So, but the one thing I want to say too is that I know there's some people here from like the Let's Figure This Out thread and all that. Is that I have a different philosophy towards writing. Lost just ended, and it's interesting because when we were ending the Blood Bells Chronicles, like literally two weeks before Blood Bells Chronicles ended was the end of The Sopranos. So we got to go through that. Now Lost is ending while we're finishing this trilogy. I don't have that same philosophy that the Lost writers do, that sci-fi means mystery, they have to figure stuff out, or that stuff is a big secret or that. I really don't have that philosophy for writing. I mean, we do things, it's like, stuff gets revealed as you go along, but it's like, I don't really, like, we're not intentionally holding things back or anything like that. There's just, you can only have so much plot and fit in the jokes, and, you know, we found now by this far into the process that half the audience, or maybe 75% of the audience really likes the jokes, and the other part likes the plot and where it's going. So, have to balance it out as much as you can. All right, well, find me at the bar. I'll show you pictures of Jeff and Gus and Immersion. We did a test where we showed how in Doom you can have 8 different weapons, but you don't know where they go after you put them away. You just pull out a shotgun and then pull out a plasma gun. So we have Jeff and Gus literally with every weapon from Doom and all the ammo loaded onto the rocket launchers and everything. Yeah, Matt.
So So are we going to be using Halo Reach for different machinima and stuff? Or
Well, we don't know if we can. We don't know if we're going to be able to. I can tell you, based on the beta, you can't use it for machinima. You couldn't lower the weapons, but it's still limited. You don't know what you can and can't do. And that's a tough thing is that we get asked to make machinima videos by developers into games that are coming out, and that's always a lot of fun. But it's really hard to explain to someone that your game is beautiful and it works great, but if you're missing these one or two very small elements, it's totally unusable for machinima. If there's like artifacts on the screen, or if you can't control the characters in a certain way, there's just nothing you can do. So, yeah, we have time for one more. Nico, you want to ask?
Yeah, I have a question. What's your favorite animation that Monty did? Like, which moment? Because for me, maybe it's because I was in the office, but Washington tilting his head.
Yeah, it's great.
Like,
yeah.
it was just amazing. Like, I watched that, over and over, at least like 20 times. I'm just wondering, for you guys, as writers, directors, which animation part, like, really sort of...
Well, the first thing he did was the laser face. He came in just at the end of Recreation. That's how long he's been here. And so that was the first one he did. So that was cool. He church shot for the first time.
Right.
I'd say my favorite one probably is the one where Meta falls down on the base and like puts his hand down, just because it looks just like the games. And that's what we're trying to do. It's like, that's our real world, right? We're trying to make it look realistic, but we don't really use the word realistic. We use the word appropriate. So that's why my favorite one. What's yours?
I'm thinking of something that people haven't seen yet, so I don't want to give it away. But I mean, it's not really an animation that draws attention to itself, but the meta slow punch of Doc, that entire sequence, I think is just brilliant. And like I thought it came together so well, and it was great because that was one of those things that just evolved with me and Bernie and Monty just all kind of talking about it and just doing different versions and different passes of it until it finally got to be, how it ended up in the episode. So that was a lot of fun. Even though it's a seemingly very simple thing because it's just a slow fist moving forward. It was just a lot of discussion, a lot of evolution. It was fun to make.
And Nika says it's going to take him a few minutes to set up, so luckily we did not screw ourselves over. We have time for more questions if you've got them. Yeah.
Just random thing that I've been wondering about. When Tex comes back in season 5 and she mentions that she had seen York, Church asks, was Carolina with her? Do you guys have like an established relationship between them, or what's going on there?
Yes. Yeah, we do. And then there's pairs too. Like people, some of the freelancers work in pairs, and then there's some that had AI and some that didn't. And that's just referencing. Well, I like to reference some things that there's bigger pieces in there too. Like, I mean, the big thing in here is Washington reveals that he knows who CT is. People already kind of figured out that CT was a freelancer just based on CT being Connecticut, and that we don't want to call all the freelancers Connecticut because it's old. So they have names like York and Wash and CT, and they all have abbreviations they call one another. And they also refers to her as a her, as opposed to the person that we saw calling himself CT that was a guy. Totally different story. And it's like, that hooks into what I call for lack of a better term, the Tucker story. Because we have, Donut and Tucker, we have these big gaps in the characters where we can tell their stories.
So are they partners then?
What's that?
Are York and Carolina, are they partners then?
Yeah, well, they're not in the sense like that. I mean, they don't have partners, but they tend to work in pairs. Monty's working on one right now. Should I talk about that? Okay, after Revelation.
Yeah.
It's got North and South in it. It's a flashback thing. It's North and South on a mission together, and it's not related to Revelation. It's just Monty's stuff clearly lends itself to the freelancer characters as opposed to the idiots that we know and love. And so maybe what we're establishing here is that Red versus Blue and the freelancer stories go in two different directions, and they look totally different. Like Red versus Blue is machinima, and Monty's stuff is more of the freelancer stuff.
But still a ways off.
Still a ways off. But we're making conscious choices about what we do too. Like we talk a lot about Caboose and the philosophy of Caboose, and he's a machinima character, right? So you'll notice that he doesn't appear in any of the animated sequences in any way, and that's a conscious choice that we've made to do that. While we're doing this stuff. Any other questions at all? Community site? Anything else? Yeah.
Would that then tie into the next full season of Red vs. Blue, or is that going to be a short in between?
After Revelation, I don't know if we'll use the word season anymore. I don't know. I didn't think after Blood Gulch Chronicles we'd call them seasons anymore either. But just from a marketing perspective, we learned that the Reconstruction, Recreation, and now Revelation being part of what we call the recollection of all these RE titles. It just confuses people on YouTube, So we had to clearly say like this is season 8, this is season 7. You know, so they understand it that way. But we approach them like movies. You know, it's a weird thing because we call them seasons, which indicates it's a TV approach. But we write them like movies, we shoot them like movies, and we just happen to break it up into small chunks and distribute it in small chunks. So it'll be the next story. How about that? It'll be the other stories that we do. Yeah, we don't like the miniseries though. They're about, it feels like as much effort sometimes as a full-fledged storyline, and then it's only 4 episodes. So we like the bigger chunks. We didn't do a miniseries between Recreation and Revelation. We didn't. We specifically didn't do one for that reason. Do we have Jeff on here anywhere?